We got a political pileup in Iowa on the way. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and Florida man and former President Donald Trump both headed to the Hawkeye State in the coming weeks.
That's right. DeSantis, who is expected to jump into the 2024 race soon, has events there on Friday to promote his new book titled The Courage to Be Free. The former president will be in the Hawkeye State just 3 days later. They both held dueling speeches this weekend, with Trump firing up his supporters at the annual Conservative Political Action Conference, while DeSantis skipped CPAC and instead denounced what he described as wokeness during a speech at Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in California on Sunday.
CBS News political director Finn Gomez joins us now. Finn, good to see you. DeSantis to Iowa. What does it tell you about when he's going to announce?
I think the expectations are, especially with this trip to Iowa, that he's getting closer. I mean, speaking to Republican strategists over the weekend at CPAC, speaking to Florida Republicans as well, the thinking is that the Florida governor, who's closest in polling to former President Donald Trump right now in this early stage of the race, would likely enter in the race after his legislative session is over in Tallahassee. That is approximately around May, or perhaps even as late as June. So that's when really the target window is expected for this, and for the the inevitable sort of political head-on collision, if you will, between DeSantis and Trump that's upcoming. There's a big expectation of that within the party, and there definitely was at CPAC this past week.
And I'm wondering how both of them are referring to each other, right? This is the obvious rivalry because President Trump has always indicated he wants to be back in the White House, and he's testing out new insults, new names for DeSantis. But in what ways is DeSantis referring to Trump or characterizing him in these kind of dueling speeches over the weekend?
Yeah, that's a great question, Errol, because with Trump, he has, have you seen, especially on his Truth Social platform, he's been speaking, using and trying out these different nicknames, if you will, for Trump, for DeSantis, Ron DeSantis, and Meatball Ron is another one that's been discussed. But I mean, frankly,
Ron DeSanctimonious, right?
Right, DeSanctimonious, excuse me.
Doesn't really roll off the tongue, but
there's a couple, yeah, but there's various that are being essentially tried out, But essentially, within the parameters of these two dueling speeches that happened over the weekend, Donald Trump at CPAC, this annual gathering of conservatives just outside of D.C., which was very much a Trump-looking show, very much Trump, very MAGA-oriented. It was really focused on one candidate. And within that speech, Trump did not name DeSantis directly, but he did allude to DeSantis and speaking specifically about the entitlements issue, saying that we're not going back to people that want to destroy our great social security system, Trump said, even some in our party, and then added, I wonder who that might be, which was considered an indirect shot at DeSantis, who has been recently criticized by some within the Republican Party for previous comments and votes when he was a congressman in favor of privatizing Social Security. That issue and the fight over that issue will be a consistent one. It's expected to be a consistent one throughout this cycle. Within DeSantis' speech yesterday at the Reagan National Library, which is a big platform for potential candidates and potential contenders in this 2024 race, DeSantis again really decried wokeism. It's been like a central theme of this stage of his consideration of a 2024 run. But also, he didn't really go after Trump, with the exception of two instances, and that was when he went after the previous administration for essentially leaking like a sieve, a shot of like how this Game of Thrones description of the Trump White House, which was like different factions running it, if you will, and a lot of gossip and a lot of leaks. So that was considered a shot at Trump. And also he suggested that if you look at his administration in Tallahassee, that he had more of a, if you will, more conservatives working for his administration, and going forward, he would not have that same sort of structure, which was also an indirect shot at Trump for having rhinos or Republicans in name only. I was speaking to a couple of Republican sources who described that when talking about DeSantis' speech yesterday at Reagan National Library. But again, these two are the two bigger names in this early stage of the race. They're both polling in double digits. Of course, Trump has a a sizable lead right now, but there is an expectation again that these two will be coming to a head as this cycle goes and continues forward.
Yeah, but of course, it will not only be those two. There will be others. We've got the extra large display panel walls available for all the headshots surely to come. Nikki Haley's already announced. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, former, is likely to announce, and on from there. Finn Gomez, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Danny.
Finn.
Thanks, Errol.